All right, today we are digging into a really fascinating idea about attraction. It's called the in-state theory, and it asks a pretty bold question. What if all the things we're taught to obsess over, looks, money, status, what if all that stuff is just a huge distraction? What if the real key to it all is something you can build inside yourself right now? Let's get into it. So yeah, the whole theory really kicks off with this one provocative question. Why are looks and money, the two things so many of us spend our entire lives chasing, supposedly irrelevant when it comes to attraction? I mean, that is a huge claim, right? And it's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with what the theory calls the attraction delusion. Then we'll get into the real meat of it, the power of state. From there, we'll look at the actual step-by-step blueprint for an interaction. How you go from just chatting to something more. We'll also cover the psychology you need to really master this. And finally, we'll see how this isn't just about dating. It's a skill for your whole life.
Okay, first things first, we have to tackle this idea of the attraction delusion. And the basic concept here is that many of us are playing the game with the wrong rulebook. We're operating on a completely flawed idea of what actually creates that spark, that chemistry. And this right here, this really lays out the two opposing mindsets perfectly. On one side, you've got the common approach. It's all about external stuff, right? Focusing on looks, on your bank account, and the whole goal is to get approval from other people. It's an inherently needy way to be. But on the other side, you have the in-state approach, which is completely internal. The focus is on your energy, and the goal is to give value, not to take it. It's a fundamental shift from being a value leech to becoming a value giver. This leads us right to the absolute heart of this entire theory. So what is this powerful internal quality we're talking about? Well, it's what the source calls being in state. So what does it actually mean to be in state? Well, it's that internal feeling of being confident, relaxed, and just comfortable with who you are. You're not looking around hoping someone else will validate you because you already feel whole. According to this theory, that feeling, that's the foundation for everything that comes next. Okay, but how does someone else feel your internal state? Sounds a little out there, right? Well, the theory points to a pretty cool biological idea, mirror neurons. You can kind of think of them like emotional Wi-Fi. The argument is that these neurons in our brain let us subconsciously feel and mirror the emotions of the people around us. So if you're feeling confident and at ease, they feel it too. And of course, if you're anxious, they pick up on that vibe as well. And this quote, wow. This is used to drive the point home in a really powerful way. The speaker claims to have put this theory to the ultimate test by dating successfully while he was in a wheelchair after a serious accident. The message is just undeniable. According to this theory, your internal state can be so powerful that it completely transcends your external circumstances, no matter what they are. Okay, so you've worked on cultivating this internal state. Now what? How do you actually apply it in a real-life conversation? Well, the theory gives us a very specific 4-step blueprint for turning that confident mindset into real action. So here's how the blueprint unfolds. It all starts with projecting that value-giving energy we talked about. Next, the conversation itself needs to be fun, playful banter, not some logical, boring job interview. Step 3 is about creating social proof, which you do by just interacting with other people around you. And finally, the interaction gets deeper through what the theory calls tests. These playful challenges that build tension and intrigue. And to give you a sense of what this uninhibited, playful conversation feels like, the speaker shares a pretty wild example. He says that when you're in a true flow state, your social filters just kind of melt away. And to prove it, he claims he once riffed on the topic of Birkenstock sandals for 3 hours. Now, obviously the point isn't about the sandals. It's to show that when you're truly in state, the topic doesn't matter at all. The energy is everything. Okay, so you've established a great playful vibe. The next phase is all about building on that banter and creating a real connection. This means you have to actively lead the interaction forward, not just sit back and let it drift. So how do you lead effectively? Well, it starts with just paying attention, looking for those positive physical cues. From there, you create what are called mini adventures, which sounds dramatic, but it can be as simple as saying, hey, let's go grab that table over there. This builds momentum, which makes the next step, a clear invitation to go somewhere else, feel much more natural. And the absolute key is to do all of this from a place of confidence, that non-needy frame.
And to explain the psychology behind all this, the source uses this brilliant analogy of a cat chasing a laser pointer. The cat is having the time of its life during the chase, but the moment it actually catches the little red dot, what happens? Game over. It gets bored and walks away. The theory applies this directly to attraction, saying that if you give away 100% validation too early, you might just kill the tension and the excitement of the chase.
Now, according to the source, success here isn't just about what you do in one interaction. It's about mastering the psychology of the entire learning process, and there are definitely some pitfalls to watch out for. The source lays out a very realistic learning curve. Your first night trying this stuff, your confidence might only last for 5 minutes before self-doubt creeps back in. After a month of practice, maybe you can hold that state for a whole hour. The long-term goal isn't a quick fix. It's about building the mental endurance to maintain that confident, relaxed state from the beginning to the very end of an interaction. And this is a really critical psychological trap that the theory warns about. After you get that first real success, the natural instinct for a lot of people is to immediately get needy and try to lock down that one person. And why does that happen? Because it's driven by a fear of having to go back out there and face that difficult learning process all over again. So what's the master psychological switch that makes all this work? The theory points to something in our brain called the reticular activation system, or RAS. You can think of the RAS as your brain's personal bouncer. It decides what information gets your attention. The argument here is that when you project that confidence and high value, you're essentially telling the other person's RAS, hey, pay attention to this. Their brain then starts to actively look for your positive qualities and filter out the negative ones. And finally, the source makes it really clear that this isn't just a set of dating tactics. It's presented as a foundational skill that has applications across your entire life. I mean, the claim is that this ability to intentionally get in state is a master skill. It applies directly to public speaking, where you have to command a room, to sales, where you need to connect with a client, even to creating social media content. At its core, it's really about mastering the art of confident human interaction. And that is a truly universal asset. And that brings us to the ultimate point of this entire framework. This isn't about learning some new tactics or faking a personality. The true goal, as the source presents it, is a profound identity-level change. It's about rewiring yourself to become a genuinely more confident and socially free person from the inside out. Which leaves us with this final, thought-provoking question to chew on. Is true confidence just a skill that you learn, like playing the piano? Or is it a fundamental state of being that you have to cultivate until you actually become it? That's the core puzzle presented by the in-state theory.